in the middle of verse 42, it says they were devoted to the fellowship. And that gets unpacked for us in verses 44 and 45. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. That word fellowship, it's the Greek word koinonia. And I only say that just so you guys all think that I'm a Greek scholar. No, I'm just kidding. I say that for a reason. Koinonia, we get our word common from it. It means commonness. It speaks about a group of individuals who have a common interest and a mutual and active participation in each other's lives. Koinonia. Now, when we think in the Christian sense of fellowship, the word doesn't really exist outside of the church. We think of a bunch of people getting together around some donuts. That's why we have donuts in the back for you guys. You know, it's like people eating food. And that is what it means. But in this sense, the idea of koinonia is something so much deeper than that. It's something so much more profound than that. Just hanging out over a bunch of donuts and coffee. Look at what he says here in verse 44. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. That same word. And all things in common. And notice what else they did. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. The fellowship, the koinonia of the early church was a life that was characterized by voluntary communal living. Now, right as you start talking like this, especially in America, we all start getting angry. Because, of course, you have the people who say, Jesus was a communist, you know what I mean? Jesus is a socialist, you know. Jesus believes that nobody should own anything, you're not allowed to own anything, and you need to take all your stuff, you need to sell it, you need to give it to the church. And there's a lot of people on TV with fancy outfits on who will tell you the same thing. See, this was not mandated by law. This was not even encouraged. People just voluntarily cared about each other. The Bible never says that you're not allowed to own personal property. Nowhere. This was a necessity for the early church. And the beauty is that God allows you to own things, but He wants you to realize that all that you have is His. All that you have is His. And that if we are truly born again by the Spirit of God, because of the finished work of Jesus Christ, when we see somebody who is in need and it is within our power to care for them in some way, then we should take that step of faith. They really cared about one another. And I know this runs roughshod over American culture where it's all about you, your individuality, your individual rights. And God has called us to be unique. But He didn't just save us from our sins, He saved us into a family. And a family that's really meant to care about each other and be there for one another and bear one another's burdens. The Apostle Paul said, those who weep with those who weep and rejoice with those who rejoice. That means when someone's here crying, we should be crying with them. When somebody here is exalted, then we're exalted with them. Because God's heart is for a group of people. And that group of people actually cares about each other. They were all together. They had all things in common. As anyone had need, people would sell something so they could take care of them. It was a church that realized Gestalt theory, that the whole is better than the sum of its parts. Now, I'm not here today asking anybody to do anything. I'm just saying, hey, look, this is what the early church is like. They cared enough about each other to not need their biggest and best stuff. Because, look, this person has needs, I need help. They were given to hospitality. Completely voluntarily. This is a challenging verse for all of us. Jesus desires each one of us to care enough about somebody to see their needs and see if we can meet a need. It's a great model for Christian service. See a need, and if it's within your power, meet a need. And it doesn't mean you're going to have to sell everything. But some of you may have to, as God leads you.